Hi there, this is Gilbert. So, we're going to go over airbrush basics and more advanced techniques to apply to your model building. Uh, what I have here is I'm using an Iwata HPC Plus. The style is a dual action airbrush. It allows you to adjust the amount of paint flow by pulling back on the trigger. So, air, paint, and this adjusts the intensity. It's a gravity feed airbrush. Very versatile, and it's a reliable airbrush. We have two types of paint here, acrylic and lacquer. I recommend both for airbrushing because they're easy to work with. General rule of thumb to follow: acrylic thinner with acrylic paint, and lacquer thinner with lacquer paint. Um, Thinning ratios will vary, but a good general rule of thumb is to go by consistency. Gamera Benray, he's a Gunpla builder and he does the Gunpla building panel at Anime Expo. He's got this rule where the type of consistency you want is kind of like translucent vitamin D milk type of texture. And that's about it. You want to have airbrush cleaner. This is a personal preference for me. Some people just say go ahead and use thinner to clean out your airbrush. My thing about thinner is you don't want to be using the solution that's used to thin your paints. I just think you'll just run out of it a lot quicker if you do that. That's why I like using airbrush cleaner. Uh, don't mix this with your paint, otherwise you will have a disaster. Alright, so now we're gonna go and get, we're gonna start and get a feel for the airbrush. Dual action takes a little bit of practice, so we're going to spray from one end to the next and play around with paint flow. This controls the intensity of your color, so see, the more you pull back, the darker it gets, so you get more paint flowing through. So, try to get a feel back and forth of how much paint you want to use. Now, it takes a little bit of practice, but once you get the hang of it, you can start making more shapes. One thing that's very important is, since we're airbrushing models, we won't be supporting our hand with our, we won't be supporting our wrist with our other hand. So it gets a little more difficult to do this. So you're gonna have to practice it. I see a lot of airbrush artists use both hands to keep it steady, but since we're holding parts with the other hand, we're gonna have to practice a little more so we can build that dexterity. And just to get that overall feel, distance has a lot to do with how much of the area you can spray. The further away, closer you get. Um, Once you get the feel for it, you can go ahead and start making shapes. And one thing I like to do a lot is drawing pizzas. Drawing a pizza, you get a shape, you know, start drawing pepperoni. I know it sounds funny, but trust me, it'll get you used to doing a lot more with your airbrush. We're gonna have pepperoni here. And there we go. Pizza. Okay, so now we're going to go over airbrushing angles. It's important to practice following a straight line and build some dexterity to have a steady hand. Getting in close helps you when you're appreciating and it improves your accuracy. A good way to practice is to draw shapes and follow the lines. Try to make shapes similar to the armor on your models. This will give you a good practice and make pre-shading look a lot cleaner. And I'm still, I still have to practice this, so I won't be very good, but practice makes perfect. You see my hands get a little shaky right here, so like I said, it takes a lot of practice. But challenging yourself makes things a lot easier. Sometimes moving quicker can be useful. Uh, the only, I mean, you need to move quicker because of your paint flow. You'll see here you'll have darker areas, some other areas are lighter, but stick to shapes and it'll get a lot easier to control your airbrush. Hopefully this has helped some of you guys. Following shapes like this, like I said, it's great for pre-shading because once you get to those smaller models, smaller details, um, it gets pretty intricate and it can get frustrating at time, when your hands start to get a little shaky. But trust me, if you stick to doing stuff like this, it'll get really easy. And hopefully this tutorial helped. It's a little short. Thanks again for following, and any feedback would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.